Here we are again. Do a little something different today. When I first got into music back in the early 80s, I started with cassettes. First cassettes I remember getting: Aerosmith Greatest Hits, Billy Joel Glass Houses. This was like 1980 or maybe 81. Queen, The Game. Those were the first ones that I remember getting. My brother was a big Who fan, so that obviously rubbed off on me because I'd hear him play them a lot, or he'd play them for me. So I remember getting Face Dances that summer in 1981, and I remember listening to that thing like non-stop. And I had, a pretty good collection, not like massive or anything, but I had a pretty good collection of cassettes. And then sometime in the 2000s, they were just, by then we were into CDs and everything, and I had my cassettes, barely used them, they just kind of were like collecting dust, and I had them in like a milk crate and just gave them away for free on Craigslist, and now now cassettes are all kind of sort of having a resurgence, which I don't get it. I mean, I get it, the nostalgic aspect of it, but I don't get, like, the debate between vinyl and CDs. It makes sense. Like, you'll have the people who think vinyl sounds better, you have the people who think CDs sound better, and there's pros and cons to each side of that argument. But cassette, other than nostalgia, I don't even get, like, even, some people would say, oh, well, it's like a lot of these indie bands are putting out their, music on cassettes. And I'm like, that still doesn't make sense to me, because A, how many people have cassette players? But also, it's not like that would work for an indie band who's trying to save money, because making the cassettes isn't cheaper than burning a CD or whatever. So, and the tapes, we've all had the experience of them crinkling or the tape falling out, and use the pencil to wind it back in. So I don't know. I just don't get it. But hey, to each their own. I don't care if that's what people want to start collecting cassettes again. So be it. Kept a couple, which I think I kept these. This is the extent of my cassette collection now. This one tiny little Case Logic bag, and it's whittled down. I don't, what I have here. Some of it I understand why I have them, some of them not so much, but I kept these. I probably, at the time when I gave them away, I probably kept these because they were ones that I thought I'd listen to maybe in the car, because I think I still had a cassette player in my car. But the Who Face Dances, like, recently I've kind of had like some, like, thinking like, oh, I wish maybe I had, like, when I see these collections, I was like, oh, maybe I wish I still had all my cassettes. And then I'm like, I don't need them. But I do wish, like, that Who one, at the time, I wasn't thinking about it, but like right now, like, that's one cassette that I wish I had held on to, just for like that nostalgia sake, because that cassette was so, like, important to me back then. I don't know why I didn't hold on to it, but I wish I had, but so be it. So this is all that's left of my cassette collection. First up is Belly King. This came out, I think, 95. Oh boy, this is gonna be hard to read, but I think this was 95. I'm pretty sure. I really love this record. I drove across country from East Coast to Los Angeles when this came out, and I was listening to this quite a bit. And even that whole, like, summer, I had that CD, like, constantly playing. I picked this up, I think, through like Columbia House, one of those. They were having like one of those crazy sales they'd have occasionally where they were clearing stuff out. I mean, it was probably 2 some odd years later after this came out when I picked it up. But I just kind of thought, it'd be good to have this in the car because I like this record so much. The singles were Now They'll Sleep and Super Connected. But Red was my tune, still is. I'm surprised they haven't reissued this on vinyl. I think they just, not too long ago, reissued their first record, but this one still is a little trickier to find, or a little more expensive than I want to spend. But I should have it. This is a record I love, so that's Belly King. Ziggy, Marley, and the Melody Makers, the best of 88 to 93. I remember getting this, again, my car just had a cassette player. I bought this in like a Best Buy in Los Angeles somewhere. I got into them, Conscious Party, '87, I think, or '88 maybe that came out. And I was a fan from then on. I really like them. I was bummed when they split up. The Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers split up. He still puts out a lot of solo stuff. Still good. His brother Stephen Marley still does as well. But I miss those like harmonies of the sisters, the Melody Makers. Just like just a classic sound, so perfect. So I miss the Melody Makers. This has a lot of great tunes on it. Look Who's Dancing, One Bright Day, Tomorrow People, of course, that was like their big breakout tune. Tumbling Down, Who Will Be There. This is a really good collection. I like it a lot. I have all their stuff on CD, a couple of things on vinyl. They put out a lot of good records, but this is a nice little collection to have. Now we've got this faded copy of Ramones Mania. I remember picking up the CD of this whenever it came out. It's, the Ramones are great, and I don't know that I can add anything that hasn't been said about them to the conversation. This has got everything you want on Teenage Lobotomy. Do you remember Rock and Roll Radio? I Want to Be Your Boyfriend, Warthogs, Needles and Pins, Howling at the Moon. We Want the Airways. It's all on there. We all know the Ramones and what they do. So this is a local band. You guys probably aren't going to know them. But, there's some stuff of theirs on YouTube. I'll put a link down below where you can maybe find some stuff to hear them. But there's a local band from New Jersey. They were pretty popular in the early 90s. They're called The Funk. And this is a cassette they put out, like kind of a EP of 6 songs from 1990. We'd go see them a lot at like the local bars around. They played in New York a few times, I think, and then they kind of faded away. And now they're sort of a few years ago, they've kind of all come back together and are playing shows, pretty regularly around here again. But they're really good band, There's some good tunes. There's one tune on here, The Funky Nugget, is like the song we used to always crack up about, because it's about this dude like getting like, when you'd buy the Chicken McNuggets, you'd always get that one weird one that would be in there, and that's what that tune's about. It's pretty comical. It's the rest of the songs aren't really like that so much. It's sort of like their novelty tune on here. But this is a good record, a good tape. The Funk. I kept that one. I mean, this was one I wasn't going to get rid of, because this is, I'd never be able to replace it. Although, interestingly enough, just recently somebody put one of them on eBay and was asking for like some crazy amount of money, like, like $100 or something. It was just so bizarre, Then we've got Agent Orange. This is The Voice. This was from, I think, 87 or 86 this came out, 86. This is a great record. The first cassette I picked up by them was When You Least Expect It, their EP. I talked about them in my Vinyls A's episode. But I bought that because I read about them in reading like skateboard magazines like Thrasher and Trans World. And I picked up When You Least Expect It, probably at the mall, at the tape shop, and I really got into them, and we'd listen to these guys skateboard, and I picked up this one probably right after that, and I thought I still had the When You Least Expect It cassette that I picked up, but it's not in the bag. It seems to have disappeared. But this is a great band, great record. I think this is the last stuff they put out with the original band. They're still around, they still play, but Mike Palm's the only original guy left. Voices in the Night, It's You're in Your Head, Say It Isn't True, Tearing Me Apart. Great stuff on here. Unfortunately, a few years ago, James, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Levasque, I think is how you pronounce it, but he passed away a few years ago, and I think he kind of hit some hard times, which is kind of sad, but it's a shame. Like, they were a really good band. I was always kind of bummed out that they sort of split up, and it's good that they're still around, but it would have been cool to see the original guys. I never got to see the 3 of them live. And then we've got Dramarama vinyl. This is one of my favorite records of all time. When this came out in 91, 91. I bought this CD. This I got later, kind of like Belly, like way after the fact. I picked up the cassette just to have it in my car. And oddly enough, vinyl, I can't get on vinyl. There's a version available, like pink vinyl, that I think was released in like Australia as like a promo. But you can find it occasionally, like on Discogs or something like that, but it's always really expensive, so I don't think I'll ever get my hands on that. And I don't know if the band itself is popular enough to really get reissues to happen, because none of their stuff's been reissued, and the vinyl at least, and when you find it, I've got like one, and a lot of the times when you find this stuff, it's a little expensive. But I would love to have this on vinyl. Until the next time, What Are We Gonna Do? What Are We Gonna Do is like their tune about Earth Day, which they famously got the date wrong, you know. They kid themselves about doing that. But I'd Like to Volunteer, Please is a really good tune. Ain't It the Truth? Lots of awesome songs on this. You should check them out. These guys really should have been bigger. It's a shame they weren't. But they're still around, still playing shows. They just put out a new record this month, May 1st. They put out a record called Color TV. You should all check it out. It's really, really good. And then last but not least, the cover is missing, but I do have the cover. It's probably stuffed into my CD copy of this. So I have it, but it's in a box somewhere. But this is the Club Paradise soundtrack. The movie came out in '86. I started working at a movie theater, and the two movies we had were, yes, that's true. Sometimes movie theaters only had 2 screens, believe it or not. We had Club Paradise, and we had Running Scared. And Club Paradise was kind of a flop when it came out, but the movie's grown on me over the years. Like I find it pretty, now I kind of enjoy it, you know. It's like I find it a lot funnier now than I did then. But the soundtrack was awesome. I'd have to stand in the back of the theater, and you'd hear all these tunes, and I loved it. And it was right around when I sort of start getting into like reggae and stuff. It's very similar to The Harder They Come, his famous soundtrack, where it's like kind of a half a Jimmy Cliff album and then half, these different artists. But Jimmy Cliff does a song on here called 7 Day Weekend with Elvis Costello and the Attractions, which is a really good tune. The other bands on here are the Blue Rhythm Band, Well Pleased and Satisfied, Mighty Sparrows on here. You can probably find the vinyl really pretty cheap, cassette, I don't know, but the CD, good luck. I have it, but it took me a long time to get it, and it was expensive. It's the most expensive CD, music, anything that I've probably paid for in my life. But it wasn't released in the United States. It only was released in Japan for some reason. I don't know why. But and there's a bootleg version of it that pops up on eBay every now and then. But it's a good record. Like I said, you can get the vinyl if you like reggae and like Jimmy Cliff. Picking up the vinyl, you'd probably be happy. You might like think of it as like, oh, a soundtrack. Well, I don't know, but it's definitely worth it if you like reggae and you like Jimmy Cliff. The other thing I was thinking about was the clear cassettes when those came out. Like I remember my very first cassette that I bought, where they weren't white anymore. Now they were clear. I remember that kind of starting in like '86, or maybe '85, and I think. And the first cassette I bought that was on a clear cassette was Robert Palmer, Riptide. I kind of wanted to buy that record, and I think I was debating if I should buy it on vinyl or cassette. And like I said, this is dumb, but I do remember thinking, like, if it's on a clear cassette, I'm going to buy it. I don't know why. I don't know what that meant to me, but I do remember that for some strange reason. But that was the first one that I bought that was like on a clear cassette, and then of course it became, everything was like that. That's it for the cassettes. That's all I could that's all I could do for the cassettes. So subscribe, all that stuff. Let me know, give me some feedback if you want about any of these, or let me know your own experience with cassettes, or even what you think about them sort of coming back. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on that. So Till next time, we'll see you later.